Hey, folks, welcome to Kaiser's Castle. Tonight I got a special treat. Remember that song? It's Game Time. It's on YouTube channel Axion Ghost. Great song, great guy. Lets me use his material. Uh, that's just how that works. Now, there was something over a year ago, because you know how Facebook likes to remind you of something you said on 11 July 2020. Here's what I wrote my Lecturing to an Empty Chair series. What you are witnessing now, dot, dot, dot. I have not felt the need to do another talk to anyone but everyone for quite a while. I think what you are seeing now is exactly why I enlisted in the Army circa 1980s and the Marines in 88. Communism. I understood it as a young idealist to the utopia readings of Marx and Engels. I saw the reality of East Germany as a young soldier. Stasi's methodical disintegration, which I've said this before, is nothing more than what they call deplatforming you of life, of its own citizens, and the squalor of gray landscapes of concrete. It all started in the 20s, Weimar Germany, like people with the likes of Wilhelm Peck, Otto Grothwohl, and the future Secretary of the Central Committee, Walter Ulbricht. All studied in the fledgling Soviet Union and returned to Germany to foment revolution against the Kaiser, Tsar of Germany. It caused massive street fighting and divided a nation. Remember, during the First World War, and a lot of people do fail to remember this, there was an outbreak of the Spanish flu. It ravaged America and Europe into the mid to late 20s. Starting to sound familiar yet, folks? You have heard the term new normal. I bet you did not know it's really called normalization. It is a communist technique in the final stage of a coup d'etat, which you are now undergoing, where you will be forced to accept the unacceptable, turn on your neighbor and family. Still sounding familiar, Karen? The artificial division of races, religions, rich and poor, it is all being done by bad actors remaining in the government, media, and academia. You are all sheep being led to the slaughter purposely. There are, in fact, indeed, outside forces funding it, both nation states and NGOs. Folks, I've seen it done overseas. Never thought it would ricochet back to the good old USA. It has, in fact, indeed. And that's KS 2020. That's a year ago. And go to Yuri Bezmenov's little program, and you can see, I'll read it verbatim for him. He was a former KGB agent who defected to the West. Tried to warn us about communist subversion. This is back in the 70s. He was interviewed. A lot of you folks who are libertarians have read this book, Creature from Jekyll Island. Well, that gentleman who wrote that book interviewed him, and it's a famous interview. Subversion comes in 4 stages. Foster cultural decadence and demoralization. That's number 1. Number 2, create social chaos. We've seen that, right? Number 3, instigate a crisis that leads to either civil war, revolution, or invasion. Notice what the Chinese and the Russians are saber rattling about. Number 4, a quick and savage coup bringing the country under the control of the Communist Party. This is called normalization. You've went through all of them except for the third stage, and I think they bypassed it because they hope, because their numbers are so small on the woke mob, they need somebody to come in and help them. And that's what they're hoping for. And with that being said, my guest tonight, you've all heard him on my show before. It is Dano. And Dano, I gave you a quick down and dirty on my thoughts, and I would love to. Oh, by the way, it was Griffith that interviewed him from Creature from Jekyll Island. Sorry about that, Dano.
Right. I'm not.
Jump on in, brother.
Hey, man. So we did a little bit of show prep last night, and we got a lot to shove into an hour, believe it or not. So I'm actually going to go ahead and set my watch because I still have to do my I still have to do my election classes and stuff. I got election stuff to do tomorrow night. So this is much as we've seen back. Let's see here. This would have been back in China, 1966. This is some of the very same things that we're seeing that happened in China. The day that the police weren't needed anymore. And the students started holding show trials, much as we would see in other countries. And they would go ahead and they would take on the system. So a lot of what we're seeing took place in August of 66. Now, I am going to go ahead and digress to say this. This happened long before then. This happened back in Mother Russia, back in the days with the Tsar and Anastasia and things like that. So it is all, this is merely history repeating itself. Now, the one thing I am going to tell you is that back in 2017, I received a phone call from a gentleman, and he had just left Charlottesville, and he had completed a job for a client, and he was at the Unite the Right march that took place, and we discussed a lot of what was happening then, how it would more than likely unfold and affect the future. And Kaiser and I had that conversation. And unfortunately, everything that we have said has come true. When the students took over in 1966 in China, they went ahead and they wanted to change the four olds. Their old customs, old cultures, old habits, and old ideas. Any of this sound familiar? In Charlottesville this weekend, not only did they remove the statues of Robert E. Lee, Stonewall Jackson, but now there has been a sudden vote to remove the statue that has at the Lewis and Clark Exploratory Center. So that is going in Sacagawea is included in that. And of course, you know, I found this article on NPR. We know NPR is just a bunch of socialist Chi-Com trash for all intents and purposes. I guess if they wanted to discuss it with me, they must definitely have that ability to do that. The CIA, tell them how to get a hold of me. But you know, we're seeing this. We're watching this happen. I am of the opinion, though, that the one person that is probably more so behind a lot of this, including the gentleman that was in the empty chair, that would have been then Obama, President Obama.
Exactly.
And his student that wants to go ahead and continue to project his agenda and their agenda at the time that they had started with.
Valerie Jarrett.
Well, okay, so Valerie Jarrett, but now we have Vice President Kamala Harris.
She's gamey. I think she's more of a student of Ibrahim Kendi. So, just because of different things in her ideology. If you think I'm wrong, please correct me, and I mean that, brother.
Well, I think what's going to happen is right now, Biden's aides are concerned that she's going to go ahead and invoke the 25th Amendment to remove the dementia-ridden Joey Beans. And now his aides are having a total, so now his aides are having nothing more than a complete and total meltdown. And now they're beginning to use the they're beginning to use the media to attack Camilla the mattress Harris. And I believe that we're going to begin to see the ultimate meltdown as the last of the Democrat old guard and the new student progressives who are worried about changing the four olds, old customs, old culture, old habits, and old ideas. There's going to be this internal battle that takes place between the office of the president and the vice president. Now, I am also of the opinion, though, that they are probably all going to be detoured from this because as these forensic audits keep popping up, so we had a successful forensic audit of the 2020 presidential election results in Arizona. Of course, Fox News and the other alphabet networks refuse to cover any of it. They don't even mention any of it. NPR.
Well, it's all fake news. So look, on the election stuff, we're gonna have to be very careful on how our phraseology on this because they'll label it fake news and my channel will go.
Unfortunately for them, what they need to understand is that the numbers don't lie.
Right.
The numbers don't lie, whereas they have more votes than registered voters. They lack
true.
chain of custody paperwork for the absentee ballots. And it's going to really come back to bite them in the butt because they have nowhere to go to be able to go ahead and to be able to gain any kind of leverage on the high ground to get any of this back. Because you see, they figured that they had Arizona beat down pretty good, but now Pennsylvania wants to jump into it. There was there's movement with the Senate president and the president of the Senate in Pennsylvania to make it go. Georgia, in addition to having the forensic audit, they also are going to change their election day activities, is my understanding of it. I don't know the exact context of what they're doing. However, it is all going to become very, very different in those places. And my projection is going to be is that in 22, we already know people are fed up. We have Democrats that are saying, I want my vote back. I've been ripped off. None of this is working. This is not what I voted for. And now they're finding out as things go on, it's only getting worse.
And that's why I say we're in number 4, brother, on that list, because they instigated a crisis. We've never had this in the United States. We have never had a vote like this. And by the way, just to do a callback to what you said, yes, Kaiser was a guy who was bodyguarding a podcaster who's, really nobody. It was like Opie and Anthony show. And the Unite the Right rally, people forget. And I saw it real time, and Dano heard it real time after I was on the road going home. A certain person showed up with Double D, and that's what instigated me getting a visit, because I happened to hit the news.
Right.
And that's a fact. But
Right.
he was not even on the list because it was about saving a statue. And at that time, me and Dano were talking. And so are a lot of my friends that are very multicultural. They all knew what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a security gig. And, anyways, the whole thing was I saw the setup from the beginning. And unfortunately, Dano had linked everything up, was going to do a live show, and for some reason it never went out. I imagine why. It sounds kind of when I saw Trump give the January 6th speech before the speech or before anything happened there, when he gave them that amount of time, I'm like, that's just the amount of time to make a setup, and that's exactly what they did there. And they also did it on the 6th. And that's my belief because I saw it play out just like Seville. And I'm telling you, folks, if you believe Seville was anything but orchestrated, the fact of the matter, one person died from conflict there. And that was
Mm-hmm.
Ashley Babbitt. Period. Point blank. And that's all I had to say on that. But I just wanted to do a callback since you mentioned that,
Mm-hmm.
because you intimately knew about it
Mm-hmm.
within a couple hours of it happening.
Mm-hmm. I did.
So there you
Hey,
go.
Dano has a technical difficulty that he needs to work out here. Give me about 30 seconds. I'll be right back. Kind of room, and I'll jump back in just a second.
No worries. And funny thing, folks, me and Dano have known each other for a lot of years. And if you would see us, you'd say we're brothers, but we may not believe everything alike. We may not agree on everything, but we also can disagree without being disagreeable. And that's why I love having people on, like Dano, like Holland, like all my brothers on. Baz, Kate, when she comes on. It's because we don't always have to agree. And that's something called freedom in America, where you can talk about issues that are real. And it's called a sounding board. If you think any man or woman takes a decision, because nobody makes one, you make a cake. You do not make a decision. You take one, because there's certain decisions out there. You're not going by a recipe, folks. And the important thing is, those other people give you ideas to the ideal, and that's what's important. And if Dana's back, jump on, brother.
Okay, so I didn't hear anything that you said.
No worries.
But we had a conversation. We covered quite a few different things last night, and I have hey, if anyone's a NASCAR fan, a Busch won today. It was the older brother, not Kyle, Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch won at Atlanta today. So, sometimes when you hear people do podcasts, you think, oh, they dug that up from back there. So I always throw something factual that happened today into a broadcast as kind of a time mark. So everyone understands we just didn't, kind of splice a bunch of stuff together and just try to make a show out of it. So I know you don't do that.
Hell
I
yeah.
do that.
Hell yeah. We do it live on both feet, baby. And look,
Oh, yeah.
besides the bushes, not the bushes that were in the White House, I'm talking about we're in the Florida seat of governorship. I'm
Right.
talking about the bushes that are in NASCAR or the bushes on our women. That's all we give a fuck about, folks.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. So, we also, in our production meeting last night that took about maybe 15 minutes, we were talking about the number of police officers that are quitting the departments that they're in that are in these Democrat-held cities, the ones that are retiring and rehiring in the suburban areas. And the stupidity of all of this is that it's bleeding over into the fire departments as well. So now what is happening is these cities pay all this money for all of this training, and they're able to go ahead and afford the training that the smaller departments can't afford and isn't built into their budget. So now when they get these officers that come in, whether it's from the city of Columbus, whether it's in New York, whether it's anywhere else, a large Democrat held city, because they always want their folks to have all these awesome, stupendous qualifications. And, I can talk a rock down from committing suicide kind of a thing. This is only going to benefit and make the suburban area, the suburban and the outlying areas from these big cities a stronger community. Now, I am noticing, and I was looking at Fox News. I guess they just graduated an NYPD class of 555 recruits, and 42 of those recruits that graduated were former corrections officers. This is going to become problematic, and for the larger cities, City of Columbus is going through an upheaval right now. They have the new police chief that came from Detroit, which really does not instill any kind of confidence in me, because she went ahead and she demanded that she take advantage of a security detail. That's funny. The newest top cop in the city of Columbus, Ohio, has to have a security detail.
Hey, Dan, let me tell you why. I understand this completely. There is a reason. Ohio, there's like 5 states like Ohio, and they're all reciprocal on police. Florida, California, Ohio, and there's 2 other states I can't remember. They'll accept police training, OPATA, Ohio Peace Officers Training Academy.
Mm-hmm.
They will accept that from those 5 states, nowhere else. And Detroit's not on that list. If you knew about Detroit PD, DPD, mm-hmm. I worked up there when I was with Immigration and Customs.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to tell you right now, a lot of gang tattoos, very diverse, and a dying city. And I know exactly why Ginther's bringing her here to be the fall girl. And so she has to go through OPATA before she can carry a gun. So that's why she requested, and that still doesn't make it good. She shouldn't have a security detail. She's a civilian until she's on duty, just like her officers.
Mm-hmm.
But she can't carry a gun unless she gets a concealed carry permit. And unfortunately for Columbus, Franklin County, to be particular, they have a Democrat sheriff too. Mm-hmm. And it takes about 45 days outside of anywhere else, up to 6 months to get a concealed carry permit. So, and she's going to have to wear it on her hip. Now, here's the messed up part about Ohio law, the ORC, Ohio Revised Code.
Mm-hmm.
Is anybody can carry a gun on their hip in the state of Ohio all the time until you get to cities. And what they did was pass menacing laws. So if you have a gun on your hip in the city of Columbus, Akron, Cleveland, Cincinnati, Lima, several other cities, major cities, you're menacing people by having a gun on your hip, and you can be arrested for it. It's a misdemeanor. It's not going to get your license revoked or something.
Right.
But they will charge you with this, and it's a pain in the ass to fight. So, the best law Ohio has, and it's still on the books, by the way, even though we have concealed carry, is reasonable man clause. And a reasonable man clause is you have $10,000 on your person, you have threats against your life, several other things, and you can have a gun on your hip, concealed even. It didn't change. That law didn't change. But what you will do is spend a night in jail, go see the judge in the morning, and give the proof. Like if I've had death threats.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got those recorded. So guess what? Spend a night in jail, it's dismissed. But you're going to have to spend that night in jail. And that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, there is a reason why she requested it, because she's afraid because of the atmosphere Ginther made.
Oh, that atmosphere and the lack of proactive policing goes back to Mike Coleman and Mel Dodge. Most folks can't even go back that far. They aren't even that psychologically connected to Columbus politics to be able to understand. Mike Coleman is the son of a hashtag or quotation marks community activist from Toledo. Most folks don't know that about Mike Coleman. So he was made from jump when he came down from Toledo with his law degree. I still say that if the Department of Justice had any stones or anyone with a reasonable ability to fulfill the oath that they swore, they would come in. They would pull the legislation from the time that Coleman was mayor, had stepped into the appointed seat, like all the other city council members are typically given now in the city of Columbus. Pull all legislation that he has been involved with and see where his money comes from. They would have him locked up in no time flat. He would not get bail. He would not go anywhere. He would end up surrendering his passport if he was able to make bail. He's directly linked in every possible way to the Chi-Coms. Now you're going to say, Dano, why would you say that Mike Coleman is linked directly to the Chi-Coms? He tried to sell his house that he raised his two sons in with his ex-wife that he couldn't honor their marital vows and had to have the affair with his
let's be clear, his many affairs, because remember, every time he was having an affair and she caught him, their house burned down, and that's why you know about it as a man who knows about firefighting. How many times did Michael Coleman have fires in his house for some unknown reason? Even the arson investigations didn't come out with the truth.
Well, their hands were tied is all I'm allowed to say about that. I know the guys that did that, and even though they presented all the information to the correct individuals, it was all forgiven, shall we just say. So there were 3 separate incidents. So there's 3 separate mistresses that he was involved with. His last one was an Asian, and nothing against Asians. So I don't want anyone to get all wrapped up and start sending my brother a bunch of garbage hate mail and stuff, because I've been to Hong Kong. I thought Hong Kong was an absolutely fabulous place. And we were in Hong Kong. We were on the island. The island was really cool. And then we went on the mainland. And I'll tell you what, you folks that are so happy to go ahead and take these awoke ideas and think that they work so good, until you've been to China and had a minder follow you around as a military member to see everything that you do, you have felt nothing. And it's happening now.
Yep.
People are being watched. But back to the Mike Coleman and the Chi-Com link. These ladies just pop up out of thin air. They just don't. There's a reason that they're there. that's a control mechanism. And I hate to say it, Mike has lost his gravitas because he won't cross her, as he turned around and he tried to sell the marital home for $500,000. Well, the county auditor, the only one probably has any stones in Franklin County government, caught it and said, how did your house valuate from $200,000 to $499,000? So there's a lot of different things, and it wasn't too terribly long after that. He hides pretty good. Now, back to the developer deals with the Castos, Don Casto and his group. If you go down to any eviction that the Casto organization has filed, it's filed under Mike Coleman's law firm in downtown Columbus.
I have no idea about that. So the Casto group, I have no idea about. That is, that's just something that, what I do know about is, I believe he's co-opted, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know the ways, but what I do know is the hows. One of them, and I've said this on numerous podcasts, Dano, when you served in the Navy and I served in the Marine Corps, and we both served in the Pacific, we loved our time and enjoyed our service. Here's the thing. What's the number one thing they told you on ship? Watch out. And they did this in Germany when I was there.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, or Europe. Excuse me. It was in Europe, all of U.S. Army Europe, USAR. And they would say, watch out for communists. And it was because of blackmail. It's the same reason why, look, if you were married in the military, you're open to blackmail. If you were single, probably not so much. But if you're a homosexual, that's why homosexuality under the UCMJ was illegal. Because you could be blackmailed. Your wife may know you're homosexual, but maybe your parents don't, or maybe your kids don't. And they leak those pictures. This is why that stuff was verboten. And now they're like, oh, everybody's open. Well, there's a lot of dudes and women that go in the military that may be that way. And guess what? Their moms and dads don't know, and neither do their kids, and maybe their wives don't. And that's why this is dangerous ground. We're trending with this woke ideology. But continue on, brother, but I'm just trying to edify you on that.
Oh, thank you. That isn't a problem. The other thing, though, in the Asian Chicom minders, this also has arrived in the House of Representatives, in the Senate, long before Mike Coleman probably was even thought of to begin to even want to ascend the political ladder. Well, he couldn't go to Washington because they knew that they would go ahead and just burn him down during the primary process. So they already knew that he was in no way, shape, or form was going to be able to take over Sherrod Brown's seat at all, which is going to be coming up here relatively soon. But you have people like Dianne Feinstein. What did Dianne Feinstein have?
And she had a Chinese minder as her driver.
Oh, and wait a minute, Stallwell, right? Eric Stallwell. I know that name.
I like to call him Swallowswell.
Yeah, Swallowswell.
Swallowswell had a little girl by the name of Fin. And
yeah, I'll bet she had the fin.
I bet she had the fins, like a little fucking, what do they call those? I'm mind dumping, but the women that swim with their breast out, but they have fins down below, and mermaids.
Yeah,
Fin
the
Fin was his
mermaid.
little mermaid.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So these minders, and then I saw an article. I didn't get to read it because I went to work at 6:30 this morning. There was an article that was released this weekend that detailed how the Chi-Coms have managed to buy like 200,000 acres of farmland for some reason or another. So this all has been going on. It's all been enabled by the very same party that was the birthplace of the KKK, the Democrats. Well, they're not Democrats anymore. They're just communists. I mean, I'm not even going
Yeah.
to use the word
Yeah.
socialist because it's such a misuse of the word. However, this has all been just boiling. You know, when I was a young man, there used to be a guy that was, when I grew up in Springfield, there was a guy that used to have, I think he was in the National Guard or something, but he always had a fighter jet that he rode. You know, you've seen the guys in the parades. They have the little fighter jet models, you know, and they have like a 5 horsepower engine or something attached to them, and they go down the street. But he always had the little sign that read, "Defund the UN. Get out of the UN." I'll never forget him
That
because
that was a guy back then who read the Spotlight. And folks, you guys can look up a defunct newspaper called the Spotlight, and you can also see on YouTube the Spotlight and listen to what they were saying. This is my first woke moment, and this happened when I got out of the Marine Corps in '92. Clinton hadn't even, maybe he had, I don't think he had yet, come into office. And yeah, he came in '93. He got elected in '92. So I started reading it, and I thought, this is garbage, whatevs. But my mind was open, so I still read it. And I started seeing when Clinton came in, everything was lining up just like those guys had written about. And they had on PBS and cable access programs, you could watch them guys go at it. The editor and the owner talk about stuff. They'd be in shorts and a t-shirt and just be chilling in the studio,
right,
and talking about
McClear.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, the McClear News Hour. That's when
Yes.
news, that was the only honest thing that you had, and then PBS caught on that it was honest news and went ahead and co-opted that as well and totally screwed that. So I
So
mean,
true. Yeah.
the last bit of honest journalism that you would ever get to see, that was the point of time and the place. Now I have a brother at work, and he came up to me this week, and we did not discuss this last week, so this is going to be a last minute kind of a thing because we had another discussion today at work for a few minutes in between the monsoon. Went to work today and tried to do our job, and we had a shutdown that we've been working through, and someone didn't patch the roof and everything correctly, so they were intent that we were in a monsoon, and I had to I had to break all their cherries and tell them and said, "Man, dude, this is considered in Southeast Asia, this is a sprinkle.
Yep.
This is
Yep.
nothing. This ain't jack." Well, I got wet. Yeah, well, you're gonna dry out too, and you're gonna be fine at the end of the day. But tonight, while we were waiting to go ahead and get started, the Washington Gazette was talking about the great semiconductor shortage. Now, this has to do with the great pandemic, and everything that's come out of that with people working from home. There is no way that the computer companies can remotely begin to keep up with
Yep.
the demand for phones. I was going to say podcasts, but we got plenty of those. God knows you can't go anywhere without seeing 1,000 of them. The tablets, your laptops, your home workstations, your home computers, which are very much an oddity anymore. I know 10 years ago, they said 10 years ago in Israel, 85% of the population owned a laptop. And so now we have a greater percentage of our of our folks here in the United States today. They have smartphones that makes, and tablets that makes the laptop look obsolete. No, I like my laptop. So we're just going to go ahead and leave it right there.
I'll say this for folks out there: if you have a laptop and I am running on my computer at home, 10, Windows 10. Windows 7 is the last version you want of a laptop, because 10 has all the bugaboos that the NSA installed. And at the beginning of the show, Tucker Carlson proved this out. Right. It's so full of bugs because the NSA put them in there.
And then Tucker's been spied on now. That's been revealed as well. So if you have a laptop that has a Windows 7 on it, you better hang on to it. Don't upgrade. Don't do anything, because you're going to lose the last little bit of privacy that you have. But part of the reason that I brought up the semiconductors is because Taiwan is the crown jewel of semiconductor production. Now, this supposedly within this last week to 2 weeks, Russia and China is to have told the Biden administration that they're going to take the island back. And I don't doubt that they're going to do it, because they've totally jacked up. I've
heard that too.
Yep. They have totally jacked up and butchered any of the freedom-loving students on the former Grand Island of Hong Kong. So, everyone's kind of, they're really not connecting the dots. So if this is the first time you've ever listened to us, look at the semiconductor production that's taking place in Taiwan versus what's happening here in the United States. Now you're saying, but oh my God, what do we do? Well, oh my God, what do we do? That is why when President Trump was in office, he already knew what was happening, and he didn't need the NSA to tell him any of that stuff, or the CIA. He's a businessman. He is not stupid, and he already knows what is going to happen to the island of Taiwan. He only did his best to help them prepare to try to defend it.
And that is why we had the pandemic, i.e., it was a bioweapon, intentionally or unintentionally. It came here and they did not do anything about it, except for buy up all the protective gear.
Well, yeah, so they went ahead and they bought up all. Yeah, they went ahead and did a wholesale buy on PP&E, and then they went ahead and they reposted it on freaking eBay, and they made 5 and 6 times what they originally paid for it. And they went ahead and they started shoveling this garbage back through our hospital supply systems and making 10 to 20 times what they paid for it when they went ahead and they forced it through like that. One of the things that made me the absolute most sick is when I went to Sam's Club and they said, oh, we have masks. Where are the masks made at? China.
Or India. I posted a video of Indians making them. Gee, Christmas, folks. Such an unsanitary place, making such something that you would put on your face. And that was another post I did during that time. And you know this, I haven't worn a mask, nor will I.
Right.
On
Right.
paper, I have the shot. Of
Yeah.
course, I have it. I
Right.
identify as having the shot. But, you know, look, here's the thing. There was a saying, and I said this one time with a brother, and he pushed back a little bit, but he understood the meaning of it. Um, Machine gunners, and I did go to machine gunner school, and I think I've implemented automatic weapons 5 times in my life. I flipped auto,
Mm-hmm.
and in all honesty, every time except for two, um, it was during training.
Mm-hmm.
It may be a little more for training, but I know for two in combat, for grazing fire,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it's retarded because you don't know where your bullets go. And if you're a responsible human, you don't want your bullets going somewhere that you don't know where it's going, and you're killing some
Mm-hmm.
kid, some woman, some man that's just doing his job. And that's why it's so retarded. And yet they think, and they keep pushing this idea that, oh, anybody who owns a gun has a machine gun. Nah, shut the fuck up. I would never own a machine gun, ever. And I'll tell you why. It's because when I shoot, I guarantee my hit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's overseas, and it's all been whatevered. But, it's a bunch of macho moronism, or dudes that are just low ranking and don't realize what they're going to feel later in life
Right.
after
Right.
flipping the auto.
Well,
And
you don't even have to flip the auto, kids. If you have a semi-auto and it's a rifle configuration, a semi-auto, just grab a rubber band. That's all you need. You just need a rubber band. They're not going to outlaw rubber bands. Trust and believe. The country would. It's just not going to happen. So, if you have half a brain, you can figure out how to wrap that rubber band around that trigger and make that damn thing work.
even
And
even a rubber band is silly because honestly, well aimed rounds guarantee the hits. Know what you're shooting at, shoot it. You know, whether you're
well,
hunting, whether you're going to a target
mm-hmm.
area. Fully automatic is so rare that you need it, except
Right.
for an ambush,
Okay,
or
that's fair.
or you have a big flood of people coming at you. Which the two
Mm-hmm.
times I had to switch to auto
Mm-hmm.
were for that, and it was because we would have been overrun, and we had the higher portion of ground, and I knew my bullets would not go very much past what I was shooting at.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thought process on it. Uh, Machine guns are honestly, unless I can see it through a scope or in my iron sights, which I prefer,
Mm-hmm.
or even my sights that are basically heads up sights,
Mm-hmm.
ACOGs, everybody knows what I'm talking
Mm-hmm.
about.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't want to fire if
Mm-hmm.
because there's just too much that can go wrong, and you know what? I could be cleared every day, all day, but I just don't need that emotional baggage.
Yeah,
And
you don't need
yes,
you don't need all the legal fees that come with
yes,
all that stuff, and that isn't worth it. So, in the grand scheme of things, though, when you're in that situation, you have to remember the shoot house rules. And people carry for a multitude of different reasons, but the shoot house rules always apply. And this just like popped into my head, and I don't necessarily know. I see that Five Finger Death Punch Battleborn video you put up the other day.
yep.
We can't play that on here. We'll get in trouble for that. They'll try to ding us for copyrighted material. I also like that. Palladian tracked vehicle that you had posted the other day. Yeah, can I buy one of those? Oh, hey, did you run out and get your 6 sheets of plywood so you could buy your F-15?
Yeah, isn't that so hilarious? You know,
I love it.
it's so many morons out there, and I can't even believe Joey Beans, you know, trying to play games. But it is what it is. It's vilification. One way, by the way. You know,
Mm-hmm.
if you appear white, it doesn't matter that I'm half Sicilian. I've been called spaghetti or lasagna N-word
Mm-hmm.
because I'm half, and then I've been called on the German side of my half. You know, a box head and a
Right.
kraut. You know that doesn't matter. But you know, I look at it, I laugh because I'm like, I know what I went through, and I laughed about it. Sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will never hurt me. As I shook my ass at them. You know, it's just stupid, man. They're trying to make everybody reduced to pre-kindergarten, and they're
Right. Well,
educating so many people above their actual brain housing group can handle.
right. Now, I talked about briefly about um, the Cultural Revolution that took place in '66 in China. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read a few things off, and I want people to think: has this happened, or do you believe that it's going to happen? So, mass demonstrations and looting. We know that this has happened. The statues have been torn down. This has been taking place for a very long time. And while the FBI and federal prosecutors are worried about January the 6th, they most definitely refuse to go back from Ferguson and review any of the video footage of anyone that has committed any of the crimes from that point forward, as far as for the riots, the arsons, the killings that have taken place. Yet federal authorities won't go back and look at any of that. They won't go back and take a look at any of the footage of the people attending the Trump rallies in 2016 for them being attacked for their preferential treat for their president for their candidate of choice. It is just so absolutely amazing that they refuse to go back and look at any of that and hold people accountable. The other thing that we've also seen happen, or has it happened, classical literature and Chinese paintings were torn apart and burned. Now, I haven't seen any of the paintings come down. Now, I know that they've moved some of the busts of the the excuse me, the some of those that have served in the Senate, in the House. They've removed their Confederate compadres bust from there now, so they have done that. Classic literature is all under attack. Oh, hey, speaking of things that are under attack, um, the churches, their temples were desecrated. The cemetery of Confucius was attacked. Um, they went back as far as to attack the corpse of the 76th generation of Duke Yanshane was removed from his grave and hung from a tree. Now I haven't seen any of that happen, but the whole thing is that you have an education system that is rotten to the core from top to bottom, and I'm talking top to bottom. I'm talking from Yale all the way down. I am so absolutely shocked that none of the Ivy League schools have been shut down. They haven't been forced to sell off any of their trust funds and their holdings, because men that founded and ran these institutions, they weren't sweet little baby angels. they were people who had slaves. They had people that engaged in it. They had people that engaged in criminal enterprise to be able to go ahead and gain that money. So it is absolutely so crazy. But we're now down to a point.
I got to tell you something real quick. I want you to hear this and maybe see it, because I plan on seeing it. My wife thought I saw it with her. It was her and my son, obviously. There's a show out called Equilibrium. This is where Hollywood always puts out predictive programming. And when I saw it, I was like, I understand everything that happened. You have people that are purpose-built to do fighting and to do the things the state wants them to do, capital S state, not lower S state like Ohio. And I always say Ohio, not Ohio. Because I'll always be the hillbilly. It doesn't matter my education. I don't give a fuck. I'm going to talk real because I'm a real human being and everybody else I'm talking to are real. That shit, when I saw it, it gave me a little bit of an emotional kick. Look at the trailer for Equilibrium. If you don't want to watch it, go to YouTube and see it. And you will be like, they find a Mona Lisa and they verify it's original and he goes, burn it. And they burn it. It's about the destruction. Look, here's why the Dems are doing this right now and pulling everything down. Notice they're pulling former Democrats down. They're trying to make it disappear that the Democrats were the ones who held slaves. Except for Washington, who was a Whig.
Right.
It was always Democrats, including Jefferson. And I revered Jefferson. He got us in. He was the most adamant about keeping us out of a world war or a war off our soil. Except when the Barbary pirates were pressing our sailors, i.e. enslaving them, and any females on the Barbary coast, and that's in Libya, and that's why the Marine Corps hymn is from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli.
Right.
And that's why the Mameluke sword was given to Presley O'Bannon by the Sultan there. Because Presley O'Bannon and those Marines defeated them on their own home soil. So, you know, you have to take the bad with the good with the bad, baby. Or you can hide it and just act like that never happened. Well, it did happen. It's called reality, motherfuckers. All right, go on, brother.
Well, you know, and here's the other reality of the situation. The Europeans went to South Africa. It's Africa, not Africa, Africa. They went to South Africa, and they went ahead, and the black ancestors sold off the weakest and the slowest of their tribes and their prisoners of war and anyone else that they had kidnapped along the way. But yet, all of a sudden, America's so bad. There was another map that I saw this week that showed the areas that the Celts, the Irish, used to hold that has been that they lost over the years, and the Romans initiated that onslaught. So if we're going to have accountability, and we all know how crooked and rotten the Catholic Church is. Sorry if you're Catholic. I'm really sorry to hear that. But, you know, truth is the truth while we're here doing this. And it is just so absolutely incredible. Of course, they have to tear those statues down. They don't want anyone to know that that was the case. They don't want them to know any of that stuff at all. because you have to go ahead and you have to destroy the history and you have to make your people disappear that committed these atrocities and enslaved people and caused the war. Was the Civil War entirely about slavery? Yes and no. That's an entirely different tunnel that we will not go down tonight.
Not at all, and nor do I wish to. We're not going to
Yeah.
relitigate what happened. Those
I
men,
know.
it cost more lives than any other war we've been in because Confederate or United States citizen, and they were Confederate citizens, but they were U.S. citizens first.
Right.
That killed more U.S. citizens and broke up more families. The first time I ever heard this term was from a brother of mine in the army. Him and Crossan. One was Baptiste was from Alabama. Crossan was from Alabama. Both of them had a larger melanin content than I, and they called it the War of Northern Aggression. And that's people with a darker melanin content. They did not look at that because it also destroyed their families and their people. And so, it's such misplaced. All this is about division. It's always about division, divide and conquer. And unfortunately, the neocons and neoprogs. Notice I didn't say Democrat, Republican. I'm being very distinctive. Neocons and neoprogs. Neoconservatives and neoprogressives. They work hand in glove with the military-industrial complex. This thing that we weren't warned about by Truman when he left.
Right.
And I'm just telling you, or Eisenhower. I think it was Truman.
Yeah, it was
actually.
Eisenhower.
Yeah,
had
okay.
the military-industrial complex speech.
Yeah. Anyways, Truman wasn't real happy with it either. And so these are the things that they do. It's the same reason Sebastian Gorka one time stated that when he was secretary of whatever he was secretary of, he was saying this is what the president's policy is, and they said, "Oh, that's sweet, that's nice. Just sit there and we're going to continue on doing what we're doing." The deep state is real. It's in the SES and SIS. You know this as well as I do, brother. And that's Special Executive Service and the Special Intelligence Service. And those are people that are making six figures every year off your money. You're paying them. And that's the failure. I will tell you, one failure of Trump is not rendering the SES and SES and SIS done. He should have alleviated that pay grade and just figured a different way to make it and bring in new people. Because they're all woke, and when I saw the letter in December 20th, I still have it saved. From the JCS, the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And Milley, he had the biggest signature, General Milley, who we see how he's been over and sucked the cock of the bullshit. You look,
it's absolutely insane. I hate to interrupt. This is what I'm going to tell you. This is the absolute insane part of all of this. Is that these generals that work their way from the bottom up, which I give them props for that. And that is awesome. I'm glad that you did that. I also want to go ahead and let these police chiefs that utilize union protection to get their job, to keep their job, to be able to do the things that got them to where they are to be. Now, all of a sudden, after they rise to the top, after they've received their exceptions, to be able to go ahead and get to where they were at because they were so discriminated against, shall we just say. And then they want to turn around and they want to tell us how horrible our country is. Go eat one.
Yeah, they can suck a big green dick on that one
Oh
because
yeah,
our
go eat it.
country our country's the greatest country that was ever founded. 1619's bullshit. We can go on and on over this.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say is before 1790, and people will always look at our Constitution and our documents and say three-fifths of man or whatever. No, folks, it was about taking the power away from the South. They had more people because they were owning slaves. They were trying to get them to stop owning them. And they stopped the importation of new ones. And those people have become, for the most part, have become contributing members to the American fabric. All I'm going to say is look up. There used to be a thing on, and there's a little left-wing bias, but I'm a liberal at heart. A classical liberal, Jeffersonian liberal.
Mm-hmm.
I will tell you this, and of course I can swing to the right of Attila the Hun if I need to. But the point is, Schoolhouse Rock.
Mm-hmm.
They did a lot of good, and you can find them on YouTube. Go look these up. Go find out who you are and what you are. There's one about I'm just a bill. You understand your government so much better than any legal class. You also understand how America is. Kiss me, I'm Polish. This one kid's grandmother had a button, but she hid it from him until, she's waving a flag, he's waving a flag on the 4th of July. Yeah. And guess what? It's multicultural. It's reality. It is the fabric of America. That flag that you and I both fly, that American flag, thank God for Old Glory. What I'll tell you, folks, is, and you need to hear this, every fiber woven was done by somebody of every complexion and every ideology. They believed in something. And you think you're special? Oh, you're a communist. Oh, this is a new idea. No, you're doing an old retread idea. And you're going to fuck that up too. Capitalism is the one thing that pulls everybody up. But guess what? Joey Beans doesn't believe in it. And none of the neoprogs do. Trust me. They just want to make their corporate people more powerful and more money. Because in the end, everybody's mutually masturbating each other. Your thoughts, brother?
It's really tough to beat all of that. But what I am going to tell you is that if you're listening to this show, we have given you an hour's worth of God honest content. And if you ignore what we have to say, it's at your own peril. Now, fortunately, I do know your audience, for the most part, we're all like-minded people. And rarely is it ever that you really find anyone too far away from where we're at. Folks, you have to get out. You have to vote. You have to get off your asses. You have to work harder. Don't let the division continue. You have to unite. You have to go ahead and make things work so that that we can save what little bit that we have left at this point. Kaiser and I have discussed this before, that so many times we're seeing these things that are going on. There's times that we sit there and we watch everything that's happening, and we're like, we have seen this play out before. It played out in Russia. It's played out in China. It's played out in Cambodia. It's played out all over Southeast Asia time and time again. Is it Myanmar? That used to be Indochina, didn't it?
I believe so, but
Yeah.
I was in Indonesia, and some islands called themselves Myanmar too. So
Mm-hmm.
on that one gig, but you know about that, bro.
Yeah. So um, I am going to have to jet, but I do want to go
Cool.
ahead and I want to leave 5 rules because I know the people that we're talking to. And even if this is someone that has never thought about being in a situation where you have to defend yourself or you have to defend someone else because you're carrying, remember, these are called the Graham Combat Kill House rules. Number 1, nobody's coming to save you. Time and time again, we see and we watch these situations play out where the police are not able to protect people. They are not there. We saw this during the Antifa riots and everything else that were going on. People were trapped in downtown Columbus. There's a dispatcher. Thank goodness they got one honest dispatcher down at the communications center that is fighting back against the city. They're trying to ruin her because she's the only one that will stand up and say we had a stand down order when it came to the riots downtown. So
Yep.
remember, rule number 1, nobody's coming to save you. Rule number 2, everything is your responsibility. Number 3, save who needs to be saved. Rule number 4, eliminate who needs to be eliminated. You can insert the correct, the appropriate verb into that. And rule number 5, always be working. Be prepared. Be prepared, know how to improvise, because this is what makes the day. This is what could save you, could save someone else. It doesn't have to be anything huge. It could be something small. But at some point in time, we have to get on the same page, and we have to take back our communities, and we have to stop this stuff before it spreads any further than what it's already spreading. And we're going to do it. We're going to do it. The way we're going to do it is nonviolent. We're going to do it by talking to our neighbors. And we're going to go ahead and say, hey, you know what? You can believe this all you want to believe. Let's talk about this and talk to your neighbors. Where I live at, trust and believe. If I thought that there was a racial component that was out of balance in our country, where I live at, this would be the place.
And there's not, is there?
Oh hell no, there isn't. There isn't anything even remotely close to it. And we see our neighbors as we come in and out, and this is a very common theme that everyone talks about. And everyone is a human being towards each other. Everyone takes care of everyone. Everyone looks out for everyone. You know, some folks that come from other countries, they don't get it. They don't get it, and they don't understand it. Even amongst their own people, they don't get it and they don't understand it because they become very materialistic when they come to our country. In their country, they came from nothing. When they come to our country, they have everything that they've never had, never dreamed that they ever could have. So it changes the way that they are and how they interact with everyone.
And the
So
way they think, and that's the whole beauty of the melting pot. Anyways, so here's my point to finish this out. Dano, you're gonna have the last word, folks. I neglected to say, take a seat on my big orange couch. It's sitting up there in the pictogram. It has changed in shape and size because of the audience. Um, it's still looking down. There's a hole cut in that floor, so you all can look down, especially those in the turret. You can see the cellar,
right.
and that's where this emanates from. as I lectured to an empty chair. And thank you for sitting on my big orange couch
Yeah,
and
thank you for
grabbing
coming.
and grabbing a coffee, tea, soda, and or adult libation,
Mm-hmm.
as
Yeah.
I will slowly raise the drawbridge of Kaiser's Castle. And I really mean this. Uh, I'm very happy I've shed several people from my page. They did that themselves. They weren't happy. And so I said, well, I'm going to make my post a little more sporadic. And I'm going to continue to do that because
Mm-hmm.
I want everybody guessing. I want them not knowing when I'm going to pop up. This is Pirate Radio, Pump Up the Volume style. Go look up that movie with Christian Slater.
Right.
This is the time people need to think for themselves. Don't let anybody influence you. Listen, anybody who's a Q-bot, a QAnon bot, get away from it. It was a setup after Seville. I can tell you
Mm-hmm.
that for a fact. And so can Dano.
Mm-hmm.
And with that being said, Dano, before I raise that drawbridge, slowly raise it and let them meander on out. You give your final words, any contacts, anything you want to give. Go on,
Oh,
brother.
there's no contacts. If they want to go ahead and get a hold of me, they know how to get a hold of you. Um, Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it. We have been working on this now for 6 months, believe it or not. It's just been really difficult, and what we're hoping is that we're able to make this happen more often, and we're a little bit better contextually as to what it is that we're really doing, and talking about all this tonight for the most part has just been pretty much off of the cuff out of a 10-minute phone call last night. So imagine what would happen. Imagine what would happen if we shot an outline back and forth and trimmed it down, how much we could shove into it. But thanks for coming along, folks. It was
If
good to be back with you, brother.
if we had a drive, brother, and we could film it, these folks would love it. You know,
Oh,
you
yeah.
and I behind the wheel, driving
Yeah.
and doing some show prep. Anyways,
Uh,
with that being said, folks, I'm slowly going to raise the drawbridge as you meander on out of Kaiser's Castle. And I think this one I'm going to plug into the cellar basement, the cellar table. And that's what I'm going to do, I think. And I'm very thrilled you're here. And if you don't want to be here, leave. Period. I don't need you if you don't want to hear it. Much love. Be well, be blessed.